This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Jessica Hammer, co-host of Crowned and Dangerous here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Crowned and Dangerous, where Maddie and I talk about all things pageant related, especially our experiences in the Miss America organization. A new show comes out bi-weekly, every other Thursday. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Crowned and Dangerous. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beauties and Headcanons, where we're nerdy and you probably are too. I'm Lindsay, and I'm here today with Emily and Elizabeth, and we're here to talk nerdy to you, as usual. So today we are talking about Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. And the cool part about this is we all have seen the movie now in the past week. We had that whole long break, so we had to make sure that we had this ready for you. And a few things. So the really hard part about this project for me was, not trying to swoon too much during the movie, but also appreciating things from a nerdy perspective, from a not so nerdy perspective. I guess that would be my daughter. And just so you know, this episode is going to be filled with spoilers. So just in case you didn't read the description of this one, we really are going to delve deep into this. So turn it off now if you haven't seen it yet and you don't like spoilers.
All right. So overall, and this happens with a lot of movies with me because I enjoy movies in general. I really, really loved this movie. Like, I think it was really well done overall, really well cast. And just, I loved it. My husband and I saw it twice. And the first time my husband was like, that was amazing. We need to see it again. And I went into it like with some reservations because I had heard a few things from some like super fans who had seen it before and were like, I don't know so much about some of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm coming in with like moderated expectations here. And so after seeing it the first time, I'm like, okay, I enjoyed that. I feel like there are some things I have questions about, so I'll see it again. And after seeing it the second time, I'm like, man, that was great. Oh, it was so good. Now, I still have things that I'm not a huge fan about, but the movie overall, I just thought it was so good.
Well, see, and I have a really interesting perspective because I had quite a few people I know who just go see movies all the time. They went and they saw everything this past weekend, the Grinch and this movie and that movie. It's hard for me to go see a movie and not be expected to like it. It's hard for me to not like a movie. I usually know what I'm getting into, and I usually have a pretty good idea of what I'm looking for. With this one, I watched Fantastic Beasts, the first one, like 3 times in a row before I went to go see this, so that I had a pretty good idea of what was going on. But then I also have a lot of friends who aren't real Harry Potter-y people. They, felt like they were confused by this one. So I think what's really important is to kind of differentiate the people who are super geeks, super nerds, and then the ones that really don't know, just watched it for the cinematic value of it, as opposed to, the little nuggets of stuff that was in there for people who saw Harry Potter but might not have read the books, might not know the timeline so well, might not really. So there's a lot of that in this one, where if you were really watching it for just the cinematic value, it was great and it was fantastic. But there was also some stuff that really left us thinking, wait, what? It was really cool to recently, this past week, we kind of wanted to make sure we all knew what houses we were. And, we've been doing the show together for about almost a year, right? It's almost a year.
It's getting close. It's been like 10 months almost now.
Yeah. And I've listened to some people talk about all being in the same house, and I didn't really have this idea that we were all in the same house, but it's interesting because we recently took the Pottermore quiz for the Sorting Hat, and all three of us are in different houses. Should we talk about which houses we're actually in, or have people guess? Or
I think like our predisposition, depending on like what houses we're in, kind of affects the way we relate to different characters in the movie. And in life in general, it's like Harry Potter, the Wizarding World's version of personality tests, and so I think it's actually really interesting how it all plays out, which kind of shows my house. I'm a Ravenclaw, but we took the Pottermore ones, which just tells you one house, but we also took a different one that provides percentages of the different houses that are associated with the answers you gave. So for me, I was 38% Ravenclaw, 30% Hufflepuff, 16% Slytherin, and I think 17 Gryffindor, which surprised me because reading the books, all 7 of the Harry Potter books, I'm like, oh, I'm totally a Gryffindor because everybody who's a good person is a Gryffindor. And I'm like, oh, wait, once I got older and realized like the other houses have their own merits too and that sort of thing. Like, I thought about it more. I'm like, I'm probably not a Gryffindor actually. And so then I did the Pottermore quiz and I'm like, oh yeah, I am a Ravenclaw. Cool. But I also have like Hufflepuffness too, which is like, I totally get because I am like, I'm not I don't know how to say it exactly, which is probably the Hufflepuff part. Like I I can't articulate what it is that makes me Hufflepuffy, but there's something there.
Speaking of which, I got 50% Hufflepuff, which kind of surprised me. I guess I thought I was more Ravenclaw or Gryffindor, but I'm 25% Gryffindor, and then Ravenclaw, and the least amount Slytherin. I'll be honest, I've read all of the books, and I've watched Fantastic Beasts, and I know that the Hufflepuffiness is definitely true. So if you look at like the Pottermore thing about Hufflepuffs, it's supposed to be like they value hard work, patience. I definitely value patience because I don't have any.
The patience.
But I don't have any. Like I love it in other people, but I'm not a very patient person. But as far as like loyalty and fair play, and there's a part in the movie where they Dumbledore's talking about Newt, and he says about how he doesn't. Emily, help me out here.
He doesn't seek power like most people do. He instead asks, "Is a thing good?" And then he does that thing.
And I totally,
right there.
I totally get that. And
yeah,
I didn't need it explained to me or anything. When Dumbledore said that about him, I was like, "Yep, yeah, absolutely." So of course,
exactly.
I have a thing for Newt. I mean. We talk about shipping people with people, and I mean, if I could ship myself with someone, it would be Newt. And I thought it was interesting too. There's a Hufflepuff teacher that we all know, the teacher who is teaching the class with the mandrakes in one of the very first movies. She's a Hufflepuff, and I was she's my spirit animal. So yes. Oh yeah,
Professor
absolutely.
Sprout,
I'm not very good with plants, but I want to be, and I want to be every day, every moment. Every minute. Yes. So I was like, there we go. No problem. Elizabeth, what house did you end up being in?
It should be really as no surprise because even when I was reading the books, I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally a Slytherin. I think that was just my rebel side coming out, like, because, like you said, Emily, like most of the good kids are portrayed as Gryffindors. And so I'm like, man, I want to be a Gryffindor. I want to be Slytherin.
It's way too mainstream, man.
But then I had taken like the official Sorting Hat quiz on Pottermore, and I was a Slytherin. And then I took the extended one that you linked us to, that gave us like the percentages, and I'm 63% Slytherin.
Wow.
22% Ravenclaw, 10% Gryffindor, and 5%
goodness.
Hufflepuff.
That explains everything.
That Hufflepuff, and I think all of that 5% is just my undying loyalty. And,
sure, yeah.
And that is probably why that I am probably going to be the Debbie Downer of the episode, because I do not like Newt Scamander. I did not like Newt Scamander going into the series, And the film series did not change my mind on him so far. So
I'm gonna need to prepare myself then, huh?
Okay.
and the reason, I have a reason
but,
for disliking him. The reason is because he was the one who set in place the werewolf registry. And Remus Lupin is one of my absolute favorite characters, and he got completely screwed over by the registry. Like, I mean, his life was absolute crap because he had to be on that registry just because he was attacked as a kid, just because of something he couldn't help. And I'm like, you know what?
okay,
No, I don't like
what
you,
did the
Newt.
registry
Not at
do
all.
specifically? You're gonna have to educate me.
Because you have to, if you're a werewolf, you have
But
to
I mean,
register.
if you had a
And so it kept track of all the werewolves.
Yeah, to keep track of all the werewolves, which didn't even help because Fenrir Greyback wasn't even on the registry, and he was like one of the most deadly werewolves.
That's ridiculous.
Of
Well,
his
everybody
time.
knew
So it's
already.
like if you're a werewolf and you're wanting to do illegal things, well, it doesn't really matter for you. But these werewolves who, want to do good, who want to just lead normal lives like Remus, they end up getting screwed over for it.
And I have the feeling, because of who Newt is as a person, like, I feel like he made the register just for whatever good purpose he had in mind, and then whatever, it got distorted because of bureaucracy and because of human nature and everybody assuming the worst about werewolves and things. Like, they used it for limiting purposes instead of whatever Newt meant it to be for.
I know you can't see it, but I hope you know I'm rolling my eyes as hard as I can over here.
I know.
I
you
agree,
are.
though. I feel like he probably had the best intentions, and if I lived next door to a werewolf, I would want to know so that I don't go bring over a pie on a full moon.
That's a good point.
Right.
Or,
I'll
take
just
precautions,
double lock the doors that day, and maybe not go over for Cards Against Humanity or
And hope for the
something.
best.
I would just stay home as opposed to visit.
The good intentions to protect everyone.
They also paved the way to hell.
Yeah, I know. Good intentions.
Okay, so let's dive into this movie. Emily, what was your favorite thing about it?
Oh, my favorite thing about it.
Do you have a least favorite thing about it?
My least favorite thing about it is that we still have lots and lots of questions. Like, definitely more questions than when we began the movie, and which I think is a good thing leading into the third movie, just because that's kind of what the second movie of a series is supposed to do. But I just don't like having questions unanswered. I just need to figure it all out. And so I'm the one that'll come up with stuff, or I'll read all of the details about it in the background, and all the Reddit everything and the YouTube videos and the theories and everything like that. And then I'll think I'll have it all figured out, and then I'll be like, wait. So I'll go see the next movie and I'll be like, what? I was totally wrong. Or, oh, cool, I was right about that, but not about, okay, well, whatever. But the biggest thing that I dislike about this is that that there's so many questions. Favorite thing about it, I loved Jude Law as Dumbledore. I think he did a fantastic job in that role. He even brought in hints of the original, not the original necessarily, but the Dumbledore actor from the Harry Potter movies. He brought in mannerisms and vocal inflections from him, and I think that made continuity.
I did feel like that was a lot of just showing how great an actor Jude Law is. I had a hard time believing him as Dumbledore. I feel like there was this intangibility to Dumbledore, and now we're trying to make him more of a tangible, relatable character. This love with Grindelwald and the regret and all of that. That's not something that came through as much with Harry Potter, and I feel like they're really, really working on it. And I mean, who better to really portray that than Jude Law? But I also feel like I'm not really believing it yet. And I know that we really need a Dumbledore love story. We really need it. And I'm worried about it. I'm uneasy.
Well, also keep in mind that the Harry Potter books and even the movies, we still see the events unfold from Harry's point of view. And Harry is an unreliable narrator. He's not impartial. He sees things
right. It's only his
viewpoint.
viewpoint.
he as a character sees them. He doesn't see them, from all kinds of different perspectives. And if the stories were told from an impartial point of view, we might see things a lot differently. We actually might see that Dumbledore is not always exactly on the up and up. He might not be
Right.
the saint that Harry sees him as, but I think that's part of what that intangibility comes from. Is it comes from our previous view of Dumbledore? Because I mean, that's the only real reference we've had to Dumbledore before. It's strictly from Harry's point of view. So transitioning from Harry to a more slightly impartial view, or even just a completely view entirely, you're going to have, I think, some jarring. And I think Jude Law did a fairly good job, like considering the fact that he had to tackle this important role, and he had to do it. It's always difficult to take on a role that is already so iconic.
Yeah, that everybody already knows.
It's a very balancing act of trying to call back to the previous portrayals, but also making it your own at the same time.
Exactly. Well, and another thing, like, we already know Jude Law as an actor, and we, so we recognize him as not Dumbledore specifically.
Yeah.
And with the other actors for Dumbledore, we kind of didn't see him in a lot.
So we knew him as Dumbledore, where Jude Law, we know him as a lot of other characters as well. I feel like that's sort of, but I also feel like that's sort of the how I feel about Johnny Depp as Grindelwald too. I know Johnny Depp is an amazing actor. I was sitting there in the theater naming off the other characters that my daughter would know him as, and I'm having a hard time with it.
Now, that's another one. I think he did a fantastic job of being this pure, evil, chilling, like, heartless, evil guy. And he only let out his Captain Jack Sparrow once.
But that's the thing. It's like did he lose weight for this role? Did you guys notice in the past 2 years there's been some weight loss?
I think he must have. He looked pretty gaunt.
He gained a little bit weight, at least in the
I don't know. To me, it looked like his cheeks were very gaunt.
Yeah.
As opposed to other things.
Really?
He looked a little more thin.
Well, to me.
I guess
I don't know.
Maybe it's just because I've recently. I think the most recent role I've seen him in was the Mad Hatter.
Okay, and he was pretty thin for that.
Yeah.
And plus there was a lot of CGI going on.
A lot of stuff going on.
And makeup and stuff.
Yeah, so maybe that's what I'm basing it off of, because I'm like, I feel that his face a little bit more.
Yeah, I think his chin looked fuller, but his cheeks were very drawn.
When was the moment where he let out the Jack Sparrow?
I think he was talking to his one of his, like,
cronies,
Death Eater, not Death Eater guys, like, asking, "Are you going to be there?" Yeah, one of his cronies, like, "Are you going to be there when I take over the world or whatever?" And he's like, I forget what line it was, but I think it was in that time when he got super close to that guy.
Yeah.
And will you be there?
Well, being Johnny Depp, I feel like it's got to be kind of hard with all of the different characters he's played to bring a different element to every single one. I mean, I'm sure there are periods of time where I could have sat there and been like, oh, well, that was very Sweeney Todd of him, and oh, that was very, I could have done that the entire time, I suppose.
Well, and to be honest, I forgot that he played Grindelwald. That's like how good of a job he did. Because we do know him as so many other people.
Yeah, and he does an amazing job of each character. I just feel like I don't know what I was expecting, and I was very pleasantly surprised, but also the whole movie just had me like really guessing the whole time. I feel everyone who says that they were so confused by it, because I understand that there was so much going on, and there was a lot of different things to ask questions about. But at the same time, I was so pleasantly surprised about how everything came together and then pulled apart at the end. So,
which I think it was supposed to do. I think it was supposed to pull apart at the end. Like, because leading into, there's 3 more movies, right? So we're leading into the third of, I think there's 5.
Elizabeth, what's your favorite thing?
My favorite thing, obviously the whole Newt storylines I'm not totally interested in. My favorite thing out of everything, honestly, was Queenie and her relationship with Jacob. It was my absolute favorite thing of the whole movie. I need, like, so much more of them because they are so awesome. And her journey into becoming, from this what is it, Macusa witch, working for the, American version of the ministry, like working for them to working with Grindelwald. It was beautiful. I was talking with Emily just a few weeks ago in the Star Wars episode about how to transform a good character into a rogue or into a bad character. And they followed that formula perfectly. Make them good to begin with. Don't make them have this total dark side to them, but give them something that they really, really want, and then make it unobtainable, and then make them want it so bad they'll do anything for it, and where the ends will just justify the means for them. And there you have it. It was perfect, and I absolutely loved it. It was
Why
just a
does she
beautiful
need
little
to get
moment
married
that I
to him
loved.
so
As a
badly?
because she loves him.
Yeah, that's what that's like her thing is she loves Jacob so much, and like I don't know what it is about Jacob specifically, but that's the one.
Because
It's
he's
like
the
there's
only
her
one. He's the only
soulmate
one
kind of
like
thing,
him.
I guess. He's the only one like him, and she loves him.
I think it's interesting that she especially is drawn to him because she can read minds, and I think he's something in his mind that she has never seen before.
And there has to be. And maybe it's because he's one of the first
he's
muggles
the first
she's come
nomad
across
she's
and
ever
gotten to
met.
know.
That's the thing is I don't. There's plenty of fish in the sea.
Well, maybe I don't know. I mean, I'm sure she's come across and heard random thoughts from nomads on the street, But this is one she's actually gotten to.
Yeah, there's a beautiful, very beautiful naivety to it. I can appreciate that.
That's true. Yeah, and I always kind of viewed her as a more naive type of character too. Maybe that's just because of her persona and the way she's portrayed. Because she could very easily be doing that,
But that's why I'm so upset about her going with Grindelwald, because she's so naive. It's like people who are uneducated and unaware of what's going on, following someone evil is.
I mean, it happens,
I know it happens, but it's still scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so funny that
that's the thing, though.
That Elizabeth, you're so enthralled by this because I'm petrified.
That's because she's a Slytherin. And she appreciates it.
Well, the thing is, I don't think she's naive at all, because, I mean, remember, she can hear everything. Just because he puts on this persona, this sweet persona, that doesn't mean she's naive. That just means that's who she is, despite hearing what I'm sure are a bunch of awful things. Because, I mean, I'm sure she hears a bunch of really cool things, a bunch of interesting things, but I'm sure she also hears a bunch of really random, sick things. I mean, she can't really help it. It doesn't seem like she can really help it that much.
I think she hears it, but
I don't think she's naive. I think what happened is that Grindelwald has offered her this out. He has offered her something that she wants so badly that she can't see past that goal, and she's become blinded by this goal. That's how a good character goes bad.
So Queenie's naivety, we're gonna agree to disagree on that one. I think that you can hear everything and block it out so much and still be clueless. Yeah, well, she has that scene where she is listening and she's trying to listen for Newt and Jake, and she gets so overwhelmed that she's trying to listen to everything and not able to, and then she collapses, and that's
and she just can't.
That crony comes and
that
her.
That was her super vulnerable. Yeah, that moment where she was just super vulnerable because the only thing she wanted to do was find Jacob, and she couldn't. Even though she could hear everybody else around her, the one person she was looking for was gone. And then the one person that found her was the worst person in the world to find her. Yeah. I did check it out, by the way. There are 3 confirmed movies. So the next one is supposedly going to be the last Fantastic Beasts movie. I think originally I had heard way back when they started doing them that they were going to do 5. But then it was confirmed right before this one came out that there was going to be 3.
Maybe this is just my opinion. Well, obviously, it's my opinion, but I kind of like the first movie a little bit better, and there is an issue, obviously, with writing trilogies where the second movie is it has to strike a very difficult balance between calling back and referencing the first movie and everything that made the first movie what it is, and also like delivering something of its own, but not answering so many questions that the third movie that there's really no need for a third movie,
Right.
And so for me, I think it didn't answer as many questions as it probably should have. It didn't really have as much of a story arc of its own. Like, it seemed like a bunch of filler. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of things happened, and there were a couple of pretty important parts, but for the most part, it seemed like just a bunch of filler. And it's like, we probably could have shoved these important parts into one of the other movies, realistically.
Yeah. Well, and to me, watching this movie, like, some of the ways that the events came about seemed like they would have played out better in a book format than a movie.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, the way, Jacob and Queenie just kind of like showed up at Newt's house. Like, I totally could see that happening in a book format, but in a movie, it was just super weird.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, I mean, I obviously went into the movies with like a very low expectations, and so they didn't exactly like totally blow me away. I thought it was entertaining. I probably wouldn't just randomly watch them again unless, I don't know, maybe my son wants to watch them at some point. Or maybe unless, like, prepping for the
third one.
In 2 years, prepping for the third movie, I might
If you
rewatch
have
them so
to.
that I can familiarize myself with them. But
Yeah.
Like, it was okay. Like, I wasn't mad that I spent the time watching them. Like,
Sure.
like, some movies you watch and it's like, oh, that's just terrible. Why do I waste my time with that? Like,
yeah,
I didn't feel like that, but I don't know. Like, I felt that it was, the second movie especially was just a lot more filler than it probably needed to be.
Yeah, if I think about it, there wasn't really like a climactic moment other than, in the graveyard. But at the same time, that sort of felt like just a means to an end. Like, we had to make this happen. This had to get to here. We had to get there. We had to get Grindelwald with Credence. Ta-da! There we go.
Like, we knew they were going to end up with Credence in the end.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of assumed that was going to take place, because why else would there be another movie afterward?
Exactly.
And I don't know, for some reason going into the graveyard part, I wasn't sure how or what to expect. Like, the first time, especially when I watched it, I was very like, okay, so we're going to this graveyard. What's going down here? And then it was like this big amphitheater underneath the mausoleum or something, and I'm like, what?
Underneath the Lestrange tomb or something like that, right?
Right, yeah, the Lestrange tomb mausoleum area, and which actually kind of brings up some interesting things. So, like, we see that the Lestrange family was supposedly might have had something to do with Credence parentage, which turns out it does not, because Leta Lestrange showed their family tree, and Corvus was her dead half brother, and he died before he got to America. He was taken off to America I forgot why he was even taken to America.
That's the thing. Like, they didn't even answer that question, why this child was randomly taken to America and just adopted to some random person.
Oh, no, I do know why. It was
I know why, but like, why wasn't he taking care of like somebody who could actually like take care of him and protect him? Like,
I don't know.
Like, maybe like a fellow wizarding family that was like a friend of his father. Like,
I don't know.
It doesn't really make sense. Oh, to protect my child, I'm just going to foist him off, and a total stranger who I don't know who they are. They might use him or kill him for all I know.
Yeah, that was his most loved family member, right?
Yeah, and why wouldn't he take precautions to make sure that he would be protected once he was in America? Like, I don't know. That just That
and
part
then
did not make sense to me.
I don't know. And then the unbreakable vow thing that Yusuf, the other half brother guy, he made the unbreakable vow to go and kill whoever was closest to him, the Lestrange guy. If Corvus died, wouldn't his scars go away then?
I don't know. Because is it based on like fact and reality, or is it based on like
Perception.
Yeah, on like what the
Right.
people who perceive reality or the truth to be who make the vow.
Right, exactly. That's kind of what I'm confused about. And then also with the unbreakable vow scars, then in Harry Potter, wouldn't Snape and Draco have scars that were noticeable?
You guys are gonna make my brain explode.
I'm just saying it's a thing.
Well,
It's a thing.
maybe by then they had perfected a technique to where it didn't really leave noticeable scars.
That's possible because that was decades later. So it's entirely possible that they could have made that magic a lot better. Or maybe since Snape is a potions guy, he's like, hey, I got a potion for that. No worries.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. I feel like J.K. Rowling doesn't make any mistakes. Like, she wouldn't give us things in the movie and them not have an answer or something to explain. However, this movie seems to have a lot of stuff to explain. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of questions.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. And I feel like that's obviously one of them. We don't know why they were on the boat. We don't know any of that. But like, Yosef explains the whole relationship thing, and the mother, was she a No, he tricked her into being with him. All three of them.
Lita's mother. So no, Yusuf's mother is Lita's mother, but Lita's dad is not Yusuf's dad.
Okay.
Correct. Because Yusuf's dad is that high-ranking dignitary in I forget where he's from.
Is Lita
Africa
Lestrange? Is that her father? Okay.
Yes, her dad is Lestrange,
Because
but her
dad is
mom.
Lestrange.
Yes, her dad is Lestrange, but her mom is Yusuf's mom.
Corvus has a different mom, but he still has the same dad as Lita.
Yeah, so they're half siblings of each other, all of them. None of them are full siblings of each other.
And actually, Yusuf and Corvus are not related.
No, they're really not related at all.
And that's like, okay, there's got to be
Yeah.
some kind of secret weird shame in that, right? There's got to be some kind of thing going on with why they're shipped away.
Right. Well, and it's also weird and frustrating to me that the Lestrange family relies so heavily on the males in their family and basically care nothing
Yeah.
about the females in their family.
That's a very Lestrange
that
thing
they're
to
just
do,
kind of
don't
like
you
a
think?
disposable person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then that raises the question: where does Bellatrix come from?
Bellatrix. Okay, I'm very glad you brought this up because I almost got confused for a second. I had to confirm online, but Lita's father is a Lestrange, but he is from a French branch of
Sure.
the Lestranges.
Okay.
And where Bellatrix and Narcissa Malfoy and
Yeah.
all of they come from, they are from the English branch. So
Okay.
they're the same family, but they're two completely different branches. So they're like kind of vaguely, distantly related. But
Yeah. So like a couple generations ago, somebody's brother went to France
Yeah.
and they stayed there
Okay.
and made a. Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about
All right.
the missing links. The
Okay.
questions
Everybody
that
goes
we
to
have.
Paris because that's where Credence is. But why did Credence go to Paris to begin with?
I know he was looking for his birth mother, and
Yeah.
he was giving some sort of information that she was in Paris. I don't
Right.
remember exactly.
I have no idea how he got.
information, but
Yeah.
it was a name on one of his adoption papers, I think.
That's right. It was Irma something or other was on his adoption papers. And so he's trying to find her. And somehow Grindelwald like passed a note to him through somebody and then gave him further information where he can find her. But Credence ended up being with the circus because he like needed something
I
to
think
do
he's already like,
or something.
was he trapped or something? Maybe he had a fit and
Yeah,
then
maybe
the
he
guy
got-
saw him.
Yeah, maybe he had some obscurial problem, and then the circus
Yeah.
guy's like, "Hey, I
I
can
feel like
use
that
you."
probably happened.
I don't know. Yeah, I kind of feel like the circus plot was like unnecessary, but it was added in there because they needed creatures because it's the Fantastic Beasts series. Like the way they threw in the Fantastic Beasts, like the animals were super cool and everything like that, but like
Yeah, like in the second one, it's like there's not as much, you don't see as much. And like,
yeah,
especially if you were to take out the circus, like you would definitely have like hardly any, probably.
we'd have the Niffler, which
And the ghost
everybody
couple.
wanted anyways.
There was also that thing. Okay, so we know everybody else goes to Paris because of Credence. Everybody's following Credence or following Newt or whatever, but or following Tina
Or
but,
following Tina, whoever. Yeah.
That whole thing with the Niffler and the gold dust and the seeing the circus. So when Newt is looking for what happened with Tina, what's with the gold dust? What is that? Suddenly, this is a new thing that Nifflers can do.
I think so. No, it wasn't a Niffler thing. It was a spell that Newt did, and I thought it was super cool because it was another way that we got to see adults doing adult magic, as opposed to when we were at Hogwarts and we were just watching everybody practice their spells because they don't know any yet.
Okay.
You know, and it was like a cool thing that you can like, as an adult, you probably have ways of combining spells in different ways to make them do specific things. And I have a feeling that's what Newt did there. And then he's like, all right, Niffler, you love gold.
It was
and,
gold
he like
dust for the
catered whatever
Niffler.
type of spell that was. Yeah, because he told the Niffler to go find him or find her or whatever. And the Niffler did it. I'm like, that's perfect. It's brilliant. I loved that.
How does the gold dust find Tina?
Well, I think
it latched onto, he did another spell that like showed a silhouette of her, and I think he used that to kind of like lock on the gold dust to her, and then like give the Niffler, basically like give the Niffler her scent.
Yeah, because it had like the picture.
Okay.
He had that picture of her in his case, and maybe like something about her shoes, because he did mention
she had very narrow feet.
Yeah, he mentioned that about her. I'm like, well, who would notice that except for Newt?
And can I just say how cute he is and how he notices those kinds of things, and the salamander eyes.
Oh, it's adorable. And the salamander eyes. Oh.
I felt the eye roll, Elizabeth. I definitely felt it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Make me feel this. I'm doing it as hard as I can.
Okay, what's next? They go to Paris. They find Tina.
Grindelwald's hookah skull thing. Like, that's new.
I thought that was really neat because
it's interesting.
Really reminded me of the design of the Dark Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it does call back, called forward, I guess, to the Dark Mark. And like, because it doesn't exactly look like a snake, but it does have a skull with something come out of its mouth. And I think the saying on the skull was in German, but it translated to "for the greater good." So I don't know if that's something that Grindelwald made himself or that he came upon and put a saying on himself or what, but I think the date was like 1898 on there as well. So I wonder if that was, because that's when Grindelwald and Voldemort like met-ish, was when they started to know each other and talk about, become really good friends. I wonder if that has something to do with like something that they did together and would try to like envision what the future would be like with stuff. I don't know.
That would be interesting. I mean, I really want more background on their relationship, and I feel like we're probably not going to get it.
We better.
Yeah, I want some, but I don't know. I mean, I guess the only place that we might be getting more outside of the movies is Pottermore. But
okay,
we'll see.
I wanted to say something as well about that, for the greater good, because I feel like there's a very weird underlying thing with this whole Grindelwald talking about war and how war is going to happen, and also saying this nonsense about how we're all equal and we're equal, but we're better kind of equal. Like, what? And what? It's very like group speak, trancing, silver tongue nonsense garbage. I like, ugh.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I really liked earlier in the movie that it was referenced that he had a silver tongue. It kind of made me think a little bit of Loki, but I think when he is talking to that group of people, he's trying to win them over to his side. And so therefore he's trying to speak to the concerns that they have, and he's trying to say what he thinks that they want to hear, because that, I think, is the kind of person that Grindelwald is he'll tell you whatever he thinks you want to hear.
That's
and
what bad
you
people
want
do.
him to say in order to win you over to his side. Kind of like when he was talking to Queenie and he was like, oh, well, I can help you, be with Jacob. I can help you with this. Basically, he doesn't care. Like,
No.
He really doesn't care. But if he tells her this, he can get her on
This is
her,
all very
on his side. So, of course
evil speak, though. Like tell a person, promise them something that they absolutely, absolutely want, and then they will follow you and do whatever. Like make them promise allegiance to you, promise them something that they desperately, desperately want, and then make them do ridiculous, awful things because they're pledged allegiance to you. Like this is.
And they think that they're going to accomplish whatever they're going to get, or whatever they want at some time eventually.
I'm sorry, they just won't.
And then by the time they realize that, that it's way too late, because they've already done too many bad things, and they've probably really changed as a person.
It's going to happen. I can't handle it.
I know.
Like I was saying earlier, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. They might have some very valid, very legitimate concerns especially about, it seems, how the American ministry is kind of running things and how the British ministry is running things. But at the same time, the way that Grindelwald is going to go about solving those issues in the end is not going to be really good for anybody. But they're not going to realize that until it's too late, unfortunately.
Yep.
And I think a lot of them by that point will be like, well, we're already at this point. Why give up now? We might as well see it
There should really be a college course on you could do Harry Potter and politics or philosophy or sociology. And
yes.
Yeah.
The politics of Harry Potter.
I mean,
of the Wizarding
I know
World.
my people would be in that class, but it would be amazing. It'd be great.
Be a heated class, man. Those conversations would be so heated.
Okay, so
oh my goodness.
And I do want to say that as a general feel for these movies, even though they didn't totally blow me away, at the same time, I get the feeling that the story that they're trying to tell is potentially bigger and more important than the story in Harry Potter. Just where if you read Lord of the Rings, you get this very epic, complex story. But at the same time, if you go back and read the Silmarillion, you realize that the events of the War of the Ring are really small beans in comparison to the Silmarillion. So I kind of feel like the same thing is taking place. Like the story we read first and saw first with Harry Potter, in comparison, is potentially really, really small and almost insignificant in the whole spectrum of Grindelwald in his attempt to,
and that's the same thing too,
power.
where you can have a really not a dumbed down, but the topical, the frosting on the story, and then the underbelly is the cake and the cream and the different notes of nutmeg or whatever. It's a very different story depending on what perspective you're coming from.
Exactly. And so, Harry's story is told from the perspective of a kid growing up, a teenager. Right. He's really no older than 17 at the... Yeah,
but it's still limited on omnipotent.
Yeah.
It's not from his view. It's very...
it's not told first person through his voice, but it's told through his thoughts, kind of.
It's still told from Harry's perspective. We don't really get to jump around into anybody else's head, really, except for a couple of little scenes here and there. But it's still really Harry's story. And whereas you look at something like this, and this is told from an adult point of view.
Yeah.
And this is told from Newt's point of view. This is told from Tina's and Queenie's and Jacob's and, even Credence's point of view.
Yeah.
What about...
And even Grindelwald sometimes. You even get that, you get to see, him being outright evil. you know?
Mhm.
And I get the feeling that he is actually like more evil than Voldemort became.
Oh yeah, I definitely get
We
that
need
feeling.
to touch on the end of the movie.
The elephant.
So there's a lot of different theories about Aurelius Dumbledore. Of course, I thought it was really cool that Aurelius Dumbledore, because I have exactly, and she totally caught it too. She was like, "Wait," it was like, um,
It's the boy
but
version of
do we
Aurelia,
really
which
think
is your
that
daughter,
Credence
which is
is
cool.
someone named Aurelius Dumbledore?
Yes, that's awesome. The first time I heard that, I'm like, he has to be making this up. There is no way. And then he took that baby bird and like magically it became a phoenix. And I'm like, whoa, maybe he's right. But then like even that could have been an illusion because Grindelwald is crazy powerful. And he's probably just telling Credence what Credence wants to hear and what Grindelwald needs him to understand so that he can get his thing done.
Because I mean, you think about it. I mean, there's so many different like explanations that I've read on Reddit and everything like that. But I think we really have to approach this with an Occam's razor, which is the simplest explanation is usually the truth. And really, Dumbledore is Grindelwald's rival, and Dumbledore is very powerful. So, what better way to make sure that Dumbledore will be taken care of than by directing the anger and the rage of an Obscurial at him?
Right.
Very simple.
Exactly.
And I mean, how better way to, get Albus Dumbledore in Credence's crosshairs than telling him, "Oh yeah, you're his little brother, and he doesn't care about you. Yeah,
Right.
he knew about you, and he just abandoned you. He doesn't care about you."
See, I do feel like I said earlier, I don't think that J.K. Rowling makes mistakes, and I don't think that it would be a lie at the end of a movie like this. I don't think it's a complete lie. I do think that Aurelius Dumbledore might be a thing, and it might actually be him. But I do feel like that term brother was used loosely, like Grindelwald has used several times in the movie, where he refers to people as brothers and sisters.
I understand, like, wanting to believe in authors, but as a writer, I know we are not infallible people. We make mistakes all the time. We retcon all the time. JK has retconned before.
Yeah.
She's totally retconned before and contradicted herself. So
and then take it back.
Yeah. I mean, and as a writer, this is one of the things that we can do is throw out something really crazy and leave people asking, is this real?
Right.
Is this not real? And it might not be real, but it gets people talking. It gets people interested to read the next installment or watch the next movie. But I don't believe that JK has planned every single thing out just because she has retconned things in the past. So
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I totally respect that you trust her to that degree, but I think I don't trust any writer to that degree.
I think that there's a certain amount of trust I have in her,
like
but I also realize that there are certain situations that a writer can write themselves into that you just can't write yourselves out of. So you have to do something. But so here's what I think about the Dumbledore scenario. I think that Grindelwald might believe some of what he tells Credence about Aurelius Dumbledore, etc. But I do not believe that Credence is an actual Dumbledore. And I don't think that Phoenix was an actual Phoenix, but it could have been. I'm just not sure. Because they talked about a Phoenix Credence, earlier. Then? Dumbledore said, hey, that my great-grandfather had a Phoenix once, but we haven't seen it since. Where is it? Well, maybe that was kind of saying, oh, it's with Credence for some reason. I don't think we know who Credence is yet, but I do think, now I like the description that I found on a Reddit post describing the Obscurus that Credence has, and I don't know how to connect it to Credence yet, but I do like the so Ariana Dumbledore, which I enjoy because that's my daughter's name, spelled a little differently, but it's my daughter's name. Ariana Dumbledore, when she was 6 years old, got really messed up by some Muggle boys. And so ever since then, she was unable to properly use her magic. It pretty much just scared the living daylights out of her to even try to bother with magic. And so then an Obscurus formed with her. And I think, I like the Reddit poster, like this person posted on Reddit, I think that in order to help her handle her Obscurus, they named it Aurelius as to deal with it as a different person from her, because she isn't the Obscurus, she's Ariana. And the Obscurus is an entity completely different from her, but it happens when, when something really gets on her. You know what I mean? So I do like the fact that he brings in the name Aurelius, because I think he knows that might have been something, because he was very, very close with Dumbledore, with Albus. And maybe he knew that Aurelius Dumbledore was a name that they had thrown around before, and he was trying to make a connection.
There's a lot of talk about how it's possible that the Obscurus is, the Obscurus that's in Credence is the same Obscurus that was in Ariana, and that somehow it got transferred.
Yeah, that's the part I can't figure out yet, because Credence would have been born 2 years after Ariana died, so that would have been a long time.
So therefore, it would bring into the question of who's been keeping that Obscurus alive,
and how?
basically. Because Newt was keeping an Obscurus alive, but like it was kind of implied that it was only a few months after the origin of that Obscurus had died. So, if a few months, it's already basically on life support, like somebody had to have scooped that up quickly. And number one, who would do that? Number two, the only people who would really do that would be Grindelwald or people associated with Grindelwald. And number three, if it was Grindelwald or somebody associated with him, that basically invalidates everything that happened in the first movie, because Grindelwald should know where the Obscurus is. He wouldn't be searching for it because he would know where it is. So,
well, see, and that's the problem I have. I've got this whole cool idea where Grindelwald was there when Ariana died, and he could have somehow captured it and kept it alive-ish, and then done whatever. But then why is he so stupid in the first movie?
Yeah, exactly. It almost, if they had structured the first movie a little bit differently, that could have made sense. But because of the way he was written in the first movie and the events of the first movie, it kind of...
Right, unless, we do know that Grindelwald did that thing with the guy in the beginning where the tongue and the forked tongue and the changing your looks. So what if, you don't transfer over your persona and your intelligence, you just transfer over the looks? So what if Graves was just stupid and Grindelwald was, taking up the... Yeah!
Stuck in his dumb brain. I highly doubt that, because Graves was such a high official.
As Grindelwald then.
Yeah, I know. No, I think it was just Polyjuice, though. I'm pretty sure it was Polyjuice.
Yeah, and then,
it was the same with Abernathy too. I'm pretty sure it was Polyjuice, and he turned Abernathy to his cause and was like, "Okay, well, let's just swap places then."
That's a lot of Polyjuice.
He probably had Abernathy make it. He was imprisoned for 6 months. It only takes a month to make a batch.
Yeah.
So
he only really needed to switch places right when they were going to transfer.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So how does all of this
kind
of we see the blood pact at the very end, and Newt gives it back to Dumbledore. How does that leave you guys at the end of the movie?
This is something new that they introduced as possibly an explanation for why Dumbledore isn't directly acting against him, as maybe he was kind of more or less tricked into this blood pact with Grindelwald before Grindelwald showed his true colors.
That's my thought. Yeah.
I don't really like it as much, because it kind of just really downplays and simplifies a lot of the internal conflict that I'm sure Dumbledore went through when Grindelwald kind of, showed who he really was. And
I'm sure he did have a lot of that.
Yeah.
But it also solidifies the fact that he actually can't do anything about it.
Newt asks him, "Can you destroy it?" And he says, "I don't know," or maybe you're...
He says, "I might be able to. Maybe I can," or something like that.
He thinks he can.
I think I can. Yeah.
They don't really explain exactly what this blood pact is. I guess it's supposed to be sort of like an unbreakable vow, but
Right, because
one that you could
it's a physical
potentially
thing.
Unravel. Right. So the pact exists in the pendant, and then there's a way, there might be some kind of way that and maybe this is the way Dumbledore gets into destroying Horcruxes or something, is he's like trying to destroy this blood pact, and so then he figures out ways to destroy very powerful magic.
At the very end of the movie, I was screaming, "How? Like, let's what?"
What?
Because we see them make it, and we see it intertwine and become this amulet, and I have a problem with something that strong being encapsulated and possible to destroy.
Having such a weak
but being able
form.
to keep these people from,
in a way,
fighting each other, and how and why and where did this even come up? Like, why would you be a young man and make this kind of a pact? Like, what would be happening around you? What would this person be saying to you in order to convince you that this is a good idea?
And I really, really, really think that Grindelwald was even at that young of an age, he was just so awful, but he was also so good at manipulation and getting people to do what he wants and believe that they're doing the right thing, that even then he was still like...
And to me, that makes a really good villain, because people want to think of villains as just this obviously bad, sinister guy that you can just pick out of a crowd and be like, oh yeah, he's the bad guy. But I mean, really, even if you look at history, a lot of the bad guys, they look completely normal.
And they're just bad.
Because they are completely normal. They can present this front that makes them seem like just every other person in the world.
Right. We always want there to be a reason.
And that's what makes it so creepy too,
It's a subtle, insidious kind of evil that is very real in the real world. And I think that's what really translates well to making a good villain on screen, in media, in a book, wherever.
Final thoughts. I'm really looking forward to the next one, because I hope that it answers a lot of these questions. And there's even like a bunch of other stuff we didn't talk about, but for sake of time, we're gonna cut it off for you guys, because I mean, if you have other stuff you want us to talk about, let us know, because that'd be great. We'd be happy to, I'm sure. Like, these were kind of like the biggest glaring things, I think, to all of us.
I will be interested to see how they wrap it up, and to see how exactly the whole storyline ends for everybody. I mean, obviously we know how it ends for Grindelwald, and we kind of have an idea of how it will end for Newt, but I'm kind of interested, obviously, I'm more interested in how it will end for Queenie and Jacob, and how, will she be redeemed? Will she come back? Will Jacob accept her back, after, some horrible things,
Right. Oh my goodness, I know. Because we all know Grindelwald's not going to give her what she wants.
Oh yeah.
I don't think anyone is.
She's not really going to get what she wants.
Right.
So it's going to be a matter of how long it's going to take her to realize.
I think my final thoughts really have to do with Dumbledore and how he talks about how much regret he has and living his life with regret. And when he tells Lita not to live her life with regret, I feel like that's a very poignant part of the story where, we're going to learn a lot more about Dumbledore's regret and why it haunts him so much, how it haunts him, and how that goes together. And I think I'm the most interested in that, because there's so little we know about him.
I also would like to know when Dumbledore decided to start wearing fancy robes instead of those awesome suits. But, we can talk about that another time.
I wonder if it's a headmaster thing.
I wonder that too. That's what Paul, my husband, suggested. But...
Or maybe it's just because they're really super comfortable, and when you're older, it's just like, you know what? I just want to get the wind blows right through.
It blows in all the right places.
Yes. Get a nice breeze.
Right. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's I'm definitely interested to hear more about the Dumbledore story and about the whole, even the whole like Dumbledore Grindelwald arc too. Cause I mean, holy cow, man. It's
supposed to be a very major thing. Like, I kind of wonder if we're going to see that duel in the next movie where he defeats him once and for all.
Oh boy. Well, yeah, because he's going to...
I'm like, Are you
We're gonna
kidding?
have
Of
to,
course we are.
because that's
We
how
have to.
Dumbledore gets the Elder Wand, isn't it?
Yeah, as he defeats him in that
Right.
duel.
And then that's how he gets the Elder Wand, because Grindelwald had the Elder Wand at the beginning of the second movie, which we can assume he had before the second movie because they said they found his wand. Anywho, thanks for getting nerdy with us today. We would love it if you could share with us your thoughts about the movie. Go ahead and hit us up on whatever social media you guys prefer. You know where to find us. And join us next week for another episode. I'm Emily.
I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Lindsay. And thanks for getting nerdy with us today on Dudes and Headcanons.